There we go.
Okay, now we have a live feed on Twitch. And I'm seeing it on this end as well. And it showed up on the phone verification for both Facebook and for anybody subscribed to us on Twitch. So we have confirmation of that.
Watch party.
While you're doing that in the background, I'll go ahead and man anybody that jumps in on the Twitch chat and just let you guys know if that works. There will be a delay just to give you a heads up on whatever they see in.
All right. Welcome to another edition of Vegas Bad Boys of Podcasting. How's everybody doing out there? It's good to see part of the Bad Boys here. And yeah, it's good to see everybody, man. I'm just looking at it. I run the audio board. I'm getting a little bit of my little technical stuff. I'm all good, but I don't know what be going on. Let's think about technology, guys. Sometimes it'll be 100%, and the next day it'll be 98.5, and you need that other 1.5% to make it perfect. Anyway, welcome everybody.
Not there. Fucking updates, man. Updates, they suck.
Right. Wrestling talk. Oh man, we should just be here all day on wrestling talk. First off, shout out to everyone in the live comments. We see you, BJ. Thanks for jumping on. Yeah, jump on. Say hello to us. You got any comments or anything you want to throw out there? Let us know, and we'll put it on because there's a lot to talk about here, and I am interested in hearing everyone's decision. Let's start right off with Impact Wrestling, and I'm going to combine a little bit of the two Tuesday night show. And then they had Final Resolution. Now, that was part of their Impact Plus programming, if you subscribe to that. And you should, because they have a lot of great programming on there that I think you will enjoy. All right. Well, let's talk just a little bit about everything that kind of took place. I'll tell you this. This is starting off on Tuesday. They're teasing breaking up the North and the Deaners. Huh? Why the Deaners?
Oh, the Deaners.
So
sad.
Yeah, I guess. So
those your people, right? Those your people.
Hey, man, I tell you, the Deaners, they've been at it for a minute, man. Cousin Jake and Cody Deaner, but I don't know. They're not on the right page right now. But I'll talk a little bit about that later because that kind of came back into in play in the Final Resolution. There was a final knockout tag team title spot, and that was Kimber Lee and Deonna Purrazzo was going to go against Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary, and the winner between those two was Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary. So they get to advance to the semifinals, which is great. Semifinal, gentlemen, is looking really good. Havoc and Nevaeh would be going up against Jordan Grace and Jazz. Okay. Also, the other bracket is Kiera Hogan and Tasha Steelz will be going up against now Taya Valkyrie and Rosemary. So, man, who's going to, for this, for some reason, I feel Jordan Grace and Jazz going to end up being the winners of this, but, I could be wrong. We'll see.
Bless you.
Yeah. We see you. You're right over there, Sin City.
I'm good, man. Sorry, I had to mute myself.
I didn't want to be rude.
No. Yeah.
Just glad it wasn't you puking.
Not the Rona.
Not the Rona.
Not the Rona.
Oh, man. By the way, so shout out. There was a match with Chris Bay and Chris Bay. Oh, and
Rich Swann.
Rich Swann.
What was it? Swan? Was that Swan on Tuesday? Because I'm
on Tuesday. I thought you were talking pay-per-view.
Yeah, because there were two different matches, but the Tuesday show. What I wanted to get to though, as they were competing, I wanted to say it was against Moose. I think that's who it was against, actually. But shout out to Josh Matthews because as he just briefly kind of said, hey, Chris Bay, he's from the Virginia area, but he spent most of his time out in Las Vegas in the independent promotion FSW, Future Stars of Wrestling. That's pretty dope, to kind of acknowledge future stars, threw all of them out. So shout out to Future Stars and Joe out there, because definitely they got a great program, and it was just cool to hear, their names on the network like that.
Impact, real quick. So it was actually Chris Bay and Moose versus Rich Swann and Willie Mack.
Okay, there you go.
I can't fault you for it, because this was the first time that I watched Impact in years, and I'm right there with you, brother.
Right.
How did you get access?
Well, you know what? We're going to talk about that a little bit later, because
it was on their Twitch.
Okay.
Yep,
right.
exactly.
I have no excuse now. I have no excuse. I have to follow them on Twitch now. I'm going to shut the hell up.
So anyway, that took place. And then, of course, the interview that everyone was waiting to see with Don Callis and Kenny.
Oh, no wonder Steve watched.
You're damn right. You're damn right. Come on now.
I was waiting for somebody to ask him. I'm glad you did, Michaels.
Right. And I gotta tell you, that was a really good segment on To the Bus. I mean, Don literally changing the nameplate of the belt, AEW's belt on Impact Wrestling. I mean, I guess that's supposed to be like the no. You just never do those types of things. He changed the nameplate literally on there and gave a pretty good history as to the reason why this is happening. I mean, their relationship goes a long ways. And they really are good friends. I mean, it's one thing for that to be a storyline, but I really didn't know just how far they really go back. So, and this really does seem like that this was planned for some time. At least that's how they're Don is taking the credit for all of that. So anyway, that whole segment took place. And shout out to Tony Khan and Shivani doing a commercial on Impact Wrestling, almost 3 minutes.
A paid advertisement.
Paid advertising. Getting people over to AEW. I gotta tell you, man, I love that whole thing. I love what I'm seeing with that. That was Tuesday right there. So on to Fun and Resolution. That was on this past weekend. Just a few things to mention. As we know, Larry D is responsible for shooting Bravo. So they had a match where Larry D go against Tommy Dreamer. And if Larry D loses, he'll go to jail. Guess what? Larry D lost. So he is now going to jail for the attempted murder of Bravo. Yeah. Okay.
Not since the jailhouse match when the Mountie lost to the Big Boss Man have we had such a pivotal lawsuit in the balance of a wrestling match.
Yes.
Yeah, at the same time, the difference there was it was a cattle prod versus a nightstick. This was literally an attempted assassination.
Right.
Exactly.
Wrestling, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. That's what happens in the world of COVID, all right? Hernandez and Falaba had a match, and the winner get the wad of cash, okay? It's Hernandez money that Falaba has stolen, which Tasha Steelz ended up stealing. So they said, look, let's just settle this. Whoever wins the match between the two, you could just keep the wad of cash. And guess what? Hernandez wins. Tasha goes to give him his wad of cash back, and, it's not in her fanny pack. What happened? What happened to the money that was in her fanny pack? So that's going to continue. Hernandez not happy about that, but we'll have to figure out where that goes. Going back,
Bravo stole it.
Yeah, pretty much.
That would be awesome.
Right. Now going back to the Deaners, there was a match against Cody, and he was fighting Eric Young. And Eric Young came down with this mask and, on his face or whatever, just kind of constructed. I guess it has some sort of weight because they're always tossing it around. Like if you get hit with it, you're going to be knocked out for forever. So this, must have some sort of weight to this mask. It didn't look like it, but we have to pretend that there was something more to this mask than it was. So nevertheless, it did come down to Cody eventually getting a hold of this mask, where now he's about to hit Eric Young with this mask, because he's tired of getting beat up by Eric Young, or I should even say Joe Doring, because he's the one that does all the beating up. And he turns around and hit his cousin, Jake. So that's sort of the breakup now of the Deaners, man, which is crazy right there. So we'll see where that kind of happened. And
so many memories. How long have they been together?
Man, for a long time.
Well, they're cousins, so pretty much all their life.
Right?
Their family.
Yeah.
The video package is going to be amazing.
Yes. Then there was the final Beat the Rohit Challenge of the Year, where anyone get to compete against Rohit as long as you're not TJP. Because remember, he lost that stipulation a few weeks ago. So who came out and decided to challenge him? Manic. Do we want to remember who Manic is?
Yep.
Who's actually TJP, in his costume, I guess you could say. Well, Manic wins the X divisional title, and then that was it. And so Rohit, who had a pretty good, long and pretty exciting championship title reign, is now come to an end. But Manic,
do we see a reveal on that?
No.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen on Tuesday. It's going to be revealed that it's TJP, and technically the stipulation was he couldn't wrestle TJP.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets the title back. That's what I'm calling on Tuesday.
That could be.
TJP actually did post a photo of Manic with the championship on his own Instagram.
Oh, did he?
So I found that to be very interesting.
Yeah. Oh man, there was a knockouts titles match, Deonna Purrazzo and Rosemary, that took place, and Deonna is still holding her own. She won that match. Of course, there was a little cheating that took place. Kimberly pulling out the ref by his leg as he's counting to 3, and that caused a bunch of craziness that took place. So Deonna went ahead and maintained her title. And last but not least, there was Carl Anderson, the machine gun, going against Ethan Page, where he defeated Ethan Page. And of course, now I think, guys, we're really about to see the end of the North, which there's been rumors going around about, I guess, Ethan Page maybe not going to be with Impact too much longer. He's really, whoever he goes, man, he's a star. He's one of those, when you think of like MJF or like when The Miz got started, he's just right there in that level. So I don't know where he's going, what he's thinking, but I mean, overall, just a great star at what he does. But that was pretty much it. I mean, Carl Anderson did go into the bus again with Don Callis and Kenny Omega as they reminisced on New Japan. You probably remember this, Sin City. They kept mentioning 2012.
Bullet Club for life.
Yeah. So, and now there's rumors of that Bullet Club coming back. So everybody's getting excited about this whole sort of venture, which is why we're going to jump over into AEW in a second. But let me just say this, because I wanted to bring up some attention on one thing, and this could kind of go in between both shows, AEW. You weren't on Sin City, but I was talking last week when we was talking to the fellas. We were talking about how this really was, I think, it was pertaining to Sting, if you remember Michaels in Simon Street, and I think it was more U Street that was, or it could have, I think it was more you that were saying
it was only me.
Okay, Sting.
Oh, it jumping me.
Sting bringing in the numbers, the importance, and all that. And so it was very difficult to see how the numbers look this week, how important they were to Sting's arrival when you also have this storyline with Kenny going on as well. But let me tell you this. I also mentioned last week that this was, and you guys remember I was talking about with Impact, I was saying, you know, there are a lot of people who have access and don't know it. You remember I was saying that. They probably have DirecTV, whatever, and they just think they don't have it. Well, just to show you the numbers, the week before last, Impact hit 166,000 viewers. This past Tuesday, 220,000 viewers who actually watched it. So where did the other 54,000 people just come from? Yeah, they had it all the time. You know, I don't think they went and rushed and got, huh?
I still don't have it. I checked on everything.
Well, you probably don't, but what I'm saying is there's a lot more people who have it who don't think they have it. They go, access, what is that? You know, and they had 54,000 more people, a 33% increase. And this is just in television viewing. We're not talking about their Twitch or YouTube, which all those things were up too. But we're just talking about just in TV. So this became really beneficial for them because, you know, and we can say that, yes, that's probably a lot of AEW people that came over, and that's great. But it also could have just been people who liked Impact and didn't even know, hell, that they were even still on or that they had it. Who knows? I could be reaching.
That's a little bit of a reach.
Okay.
A little bit, because the honest answer in terms of it wasn't something that was mainstream media, right? So it wouldn't have been something that let's say if you turned into ESPN, that would catch your eye and go, I want to watch this. The other thing is that outside of the wrestling fans, all right, and in this case probably the AEW fans even more particular, but I'm sure wrestling fans found out about it. Kenny Omega doesn't have a household name, so he's not drawing eyes of, you know, the people who don't watch wrestling.
Right.
The other thing is, I really, really strongly believe that this is happening because Callis's contract is coming up. So you're pointing out the numbers for Impact. Why would AEW allow that rise to happen, right? What are they getting in return? So what can be seen is the fact that if Don has a contract coming up, but Impact has in their contracts that you cannot talk to another company while you're still under contract, then this would be a trade-off. We'll allow you to talk and negotiate with AEW out of, you know, the respect that we have for you in our company and how long you've been here. And then this way, AEW would be protected from WWE coming right in and offering Callis the fucking world to keep him from AEW.
That makes sense. That makes more sense than anything.
That actually is something that I never even thought about, Michaels. Really good call out on that.
Well, and also too, it also shows how valuable Don Callis is in general to Impact, because think about it. If you know that your job in general is thinking about either letting you go or, you know, they may not give you what you want, pull a quick one the week before you go have a meeting with them and be like, well, look what I pulled out my ass. How y'all like me now? You see what I'm saying? So kudos to him. And I actually watched the interview in other means and sources.
Well, I'll tell you this, Don Callis, I listened to him when he's as a commentator, which, you know, he's great in that, but I've never really seen him in his ring performance like he's been doing. And man, he could be like one hell of a manager. He's right up there with Paul Heyman.
Without question.
Seriously. Yeah, I was like, wow.
So do you remember him from the WWF?
I'm not
know.
familiar with him. I'm not familiar with him like that.
So he was Cyrus, and he was the manager of Kurgan and
he was the
and,
Jackal back then, back in WWF. He managed the Truth Commission.
Got you. Okay.
And then
Truth Commission.
Truth Commission. Yeah. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he did some, various managing / announcing work. And then when his contract went up, he went to ECW, and that's where he ended up being Cyrus. He has a great on-screen presence, and there's no doubt that he will bring, in terms of what Kenny needed, which is something fresh to separate them from, this whole being the elite and all that stuff. Right. So it would be a very smart move. And also that would leave your door open to being able to have your swap offs and your interchanges, because you've opened that door. I think that everyone got a little overexcited at the potential that this means AEW is buying Impact. And it really doesn't make sense for them to actually buy Impact Wrestling.
Right.
So,
something that I thought was funny
because
in that pre-tape was Tony Khan actually mentioned he mentioned that, some people think that he's going to buy Impact Wrestling. And then there was a little bit of an awkward pause afterwards. So that was definitely something that, was definitely on the nose. And dare I say, during that same, paid announcement, Tony Schiavone actually had the best line uttered on Impact Wrestling all week. And that was, Tony Khan had asked him, if he was familiar with Impact. Tony Schiavone just simply says, "Yeah, I worked there one day and then quit the business for 18 years."
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it definitely is something that needed to happen. And I think that this was probably the only way that you're going to get even the hardcore AEW fans to actually boo Kenny Omega, is to put a heel manager that, and you mentioned it perfectly, Michael, someone that's not from the elite or anybody he's ever had any dealings with ever in the past in terms of on screen. Now, they went out of their way to mention and to, to clarify that Don Callis is his basically family to Kenny Omega. And so, they built that connection and that trust right away. And I think that this is really the way that they're going to be able to actually keep Omega heel. And now is where we're actually going to see Kenny Omega finally come into his own, because he's not going to have to stand on his own and cut promos. Quite honestly, has Callis to do it for him. And all that Omega needs to do is just do the goodbye, good night, bang at the end of the promo. And that's it.
And you got to also, DJ, I don't know if you are very familiar, but not only is Don Callis, like family to Kenny Omega, it's also with Jericho. So Omega, Jericho, and Callis go all the way back to the early days of, those guys in the wrestling business in Calgary. And that Chris has been very vocal about trying to get Callis into AEW, because his mind, Don Callis's mind, is basically exactly what AEW needs. It would give them someone to filter things through. It would give them someone who can bring a little more of a process to make sure that you're not wasting any of your airtime, and coming up with good storylines to take up that time. So then this way you don't have it where, 1 week something is set up and then it disappears for 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden, they're back to it. He could bring that cohesion to it where it will actually make the product that much better.
Let me ask you guys though. This is being looked at as the biggest screw draw up since, I guess, Hitman or okay. This is what I want to know. Do you think that they're doing this right though? Because as much as I'm enjoying it, the problem I'm having is, why is Scott D'Amore, who represents Impact, and Tony Khan represent AEW, why do they seem like that they're okay with this? This is the issue I have. Shouldn't this be a problem? Shouldn't this be, why is, Tony should be pissed right now, and Scott D'Amore should kind of be, let me figure out what's going on, because it's not necessarily bad what's happening, but let me wait and see. But Tony, on the other hand, he's just, I'm seeing something here that it seemed like there could be something missing. I want more pissed off. I want that, why is our champion over here with the belt?
So you bring up a very good point. And this is one of the reasons I think that the odds of Don's contract coming up is the push for this. And that is for a couple of reasons. One, it was done. So wouldn't you think, even though this winter is coming thing was hyped as a pay-per-view would be, right?
Right.
Would you not, for fans of AEW who want to see Kenny Omega win this championship, would you not do it on a pay-per-view where you have to have people pay money to see it? So it was a quick drop of the belt. That was my first indication that something wasn't, that this wasn't a long plan per se, that it came together very quick. Okay. Number two is the screw job comparison. You got to remember, and you're very validated in saying this, there should be some kind of tension between the two management ends of their companies. Because the screw job has one fucking thing that this doesn't have. It was a shoot. Yeah. This is a work. Yeah. This is clearly a work. Because what kind of owner buys a commercial to just go and put on their product without fucking coming after it? Right. You're right. And that end, it is wrestling. It's pro wrestling. Yeah. So it still shows that it's, there's things that even if you try to do the most controversial or different thing, if you still fall into those old wrestling habits, a guy like you, who is very focused from the perspective of WWE, when you see something like this, you even caught on to like, well, why isn't, AEW should be fucking furious.
Right. Yeah.
Now, the thing is, I keep going back to that pre-tape with Shivani and Tony Khan, but it almost seemed like in that vignette that Tony Khan came off as a smarmy kind of a dickbag heel. He was, the tone of the words that he said and the way that he said them came off very condescending. And I think that in my view, that was sort of a heel kind of a nod. I think that what we're going to see is that this storyline is going to develop legs and it's going to grow. And as we love to do, we take a snapshot, from a moment in time and say, oh, well, they did this wrong. Maybe this wasn't the best course of action, but we need to let it breathe, let it happen, and see exactly where they take us next. Because immediately after Omega won the championship on Dynamite and fled with Callis, you had Tony Khan in the back, in the gorilla position, getting up, getting kind of pissed off. You had all of the denizens of the locker room back there.
We didn't get a chance to see too much of that because they was moving so fast that you couldn't catch what was happening with Tony. And I'm expecting Tony right now to just be livid.
Now, the thing is, I don't think that Tony Khan is outright pissed off on Impact Wrestling, because he already mentioned in that promo that he could buy Impact Wrestling and that he already has other investments there. So it's not that much of an ordeal for him. Now, Scott D'Amore, on the other hand, I think that where it really kind of shines for him is that he is playing the businessman in all of this. So if you'll think back to when they made all of the moves, and they had all of the skepticism and skepticism isn't the right word, but no, the
signings of the guys, right?
Yeah, the signings. And, people were unsure where people were going to go, and, they were teasing it and all that kind of stuff. He was saying how he made these industry contacts. So
Right.
I think that really kind of plays in to, to validate that he's not so much a babyface or a heel, but he is a businessman, and he can walk the line of being a babyface or a heel. And at this time, I think that he's just essentially there for the lulls and there for the views, and, just
Right.
trying to make a quick buck. Because as he realizes, as we saw already in the ratings this week, having AEW's heavyweight champion, the champion of their brand, their flag bearer on the program, which what we even said is unheard of. So that brought more eyes to the product. Hell, I even mentioned earlier just now that I haven't watched Impact Wrestling in God knows how long, but I found a way to watch it. And thankfully they had it up on their Twitch stream, which normally when they do their Twitch feeds, they get about 6,000 to 7,000 people that watch on the Twitch stream.
15. It's probably 15 to 20, huh?
It was upwards of 30,000 people.
Yeah.
So it was insane.
Yeah.
So say what you will, but they brought a lot more eyes to their product
Yeah.
by having the AEW collaboration.
Now, let me ask you this question, because the one thing I've heard, which is all makes 100%, and there are lots of people that I've heard buzzing around with the very topic you said, but the one thing that I can't be the only person in the world that looks at this exchange, right, and wonder, like, man, wouldn't it be cool to have some mashups, or just as a regulatory of people from Impact coming in on AEW, people from AEW coming in on Impact, whether or not it's for a title, because we've talked about that before, so I won't waste time about major title belts. But something to that degree gets me excited. And I know if I'm excited, that got to be a number that corresponds to other people who feel the same way, who probably are excited as that as well. What do you guys think about that now that this is taking place?
I think that you're spot on, man. I think that what we'll likely see now is I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a mid-level type of invasion angle where, the Impact guys and girls show up at AEW. And, then we have, I don't want to say like a Impact versus AEW, pay-per-view or super show or whatever, but I think that they are going to have a working relationship. You will see AEW talent on Impact, not just Kenny Omega, but you will also see Impact talent on AEW. And I think that is really going to help both companies shine, because you've got all of the, all of the younger talent that's on AEW that maybe needs some more ring time and they need some more seasoning. And that is what this is going to afford them, is now they're going to be able to get in there, and, you've got great young tag teams in AEW,
but
they're going to be able to mix it up on Impact.
I think what you're doing, though, is you're doing what the fans are doing. You're doing an overreach.
Of course I am.
But yeah, and you have a good point, because even when I want that wish list, it is an overreach. But at the same time, there's still something that can function from it. And Steve said it, and I thought the same thing. Finding ways to expand TV time, even if it's not on TNT, for some of your other audiences, like test stream is the best way I could show it. You could utilize Impact in some of that ways, even if you have somebody that's on dark most of the time, show up and do a couple matches on Impact over a series of a couple of months. It could help.
So there's one problem with this. And this is from the realistic aspect of Impact Wrestling has a 2-hour show, right?
Yes, 2 hours.
Right. So you have a roster from Impact Wrestling that takes up that 2-hour show. Flip side, you have a roster from AEW that takes up that 2-hour show. Problem with crossovers is the exposure, quote unquote, right, that you want to give, let's say, someone who's on the lower end of AEW by putting them on Impact Wrestling. What good does it do if you have to have those people go there and lose? Because you got to keep the viability of Impact.
Right.
You can't have your guys losing to their low end guys. Now,
Right.
bigger names for a pay-per-view setting, very feasible.
Right.
But very cautionable. One pay-per-view a year at max.
Yeah.
Number two, the problem with, remember when the territories were doing this in the mid to late 80s as they were losing all their money to Vince's product. The reason they did it is because they had to generate something to at least try to stay alive. Nowadays, if you're a wrestler and your contract's up, you basically can go to any company who's willing to give you a contract. It wasn't that way back then. So your supercards were done out of this idea of, if we put these people together, this is the only time you're potentially going to see these guys ever face each other. Jerry Lawler versus Kerry Von Erich, let's say, right? Now you get the match where you have, and this is just out of thin air, the Good Brothers versus FTR. Okay. By the way, I think we saw that on the WWE.
Yeah.
So that's one aspect of it. But the next aspect of it is, let's say the Good Brothers, they do this big hype match, but then they finish their contract. And again, this is hypothetical. It's not their actual contract, but let's say their contract's done in a year and a half. And now they go from Impact to AEW, sign with them, and they're there. Now you're going to see that same matchup that you were excited for the pay-per-view. You're going to see it probably 4, 5, 6 times within a month, 3-month, 4-month, 5-month time frame. So you now potentially, because everyone can eventually be free agents, you also fall into that. Did we blow our, did we hype this up once to now have it not as meaningful once they're in? The other big factor is, can you take a product like Impact, you draw this hype, that's good for them, but you want to continue that rating, right? So what happens if fans realize at a certain point that this isn't every single, week that this talent's going to be on that show? Do their numbers start dropping? And vice versa with AEW. The AEW numbers should be spiking because of this. Does Impact have enough talent that you give a damn about to then draw those numbers and then keep those numbers? Ultimately, the biggest win would be for AEW to finally be able to retain over the million viewership every week. That should be their ultimate, their win. And with Impact, it should be getting eyes and hopefully retaining, let's hope at least 50% of that,
Yeah.
Because everyone's kind of, the scuttlebutt is, what will happen is Khan will purchase it and Impact will be the minor league, the NXT of AEW. Well, let's be realistic here. Let's establish AEW first as a WWE product sells enough. And then you can talk about adding, a minor league, feeder program. The other fear I have on this whole angle, and I'm glad you pointed out, Steve, first, when they were getting out of there, why were the wrestlers back there just going, hey, hey?
Yeah.
Like no one did anything, but everyone was lined up perfectly.
Oh, of course they were.
It was like a parade.
I'll go one further. Why in the fuck was Alex Marvez waiting in the parking lot, knowing what was going to happen?
No, Sin City Steve.
That, my friends,
that's
is
quality.
Wrestling.
No, that's quality journalism. He knows how to sniff out a story and where they're going to be. He had reconnaissance.
Journalistic integrity.
Yes, he teleported his ass there at the right time.
The thing that worries me is what you brought up, Steve, and that is if Tony Khan is coming off as a smarky heel, God damn it, you know what's about to happen? He's going to be Eric Bischoff to the Bullet Club persona that's going to form, with Don Callis as being the voice, but Tony Khan being the cocky millionaire asshole.
So let me ask you a question. How much suckage is that going to be if that plays out?
If they do that, man. Oh.
Well, guys, we can
don't do that, guys. Don't do that. If you're watching the show, don't do that. If you were getting a hard on to do that, just put some ice packs on there and get back to reality and try something different.
Sin City, man, take us right into AEW. I mean, they put on quite a show as well this past Wednesday, man. What's your take?
They definitely did, man. So just diving right in, we'll do a quick recap on it. Young Bucks versus the Hybrid 2 kicked off the show. Honestly, there for a while, I was thinking that they were actually going to go with the upset and have TH2 beat the Bucks. It was a good match. They came off looking amazing in that match. The ending was a little bit kind of clunky. I mean, you had the Bucks in peril looking like they were going to get beat. And then all of a sudden out of nowhere, they hit the BTE trigger and it's game over.
Right.
Whatever. I mean, it is what it is. Like I said, TH2 looked great. I really wish that they could rehab them a little bit because they've done so much damage to that team. And Helico and Jack Evans are amazing workers, and they really do bring a lot to the table. But in the early founding stages of AEW, I feel like as if there was a lot of damage done to their credibility. So hopefully this is the start of them, building them back up.
Yeah.
The one thing that really kind of stood out for me on this whole show is going into AEW, they had announced 10 things that would be on the show, 10 segments, which is insane. We'll talk about NXT in a bit, but NXT really, I mean, they didn't lay out a whole lot. But AEW was very structured, and it was a lot of things happening. I don't want to say crash TV, but it was very, very quick moving, and reminded me, quite honestly, of Nitro, for better or for worse, in a lot of ways. And note what I said, for better or for worse, because there were examples of both.
Sure.
You had Cody come out to cut a promo, and I was worried that this was another thing that they didn't announce that, wasn't a part of the 10 that they did. But thankfully, this was where the Sting monologue happened, and Sting had the promo with Arn Anderson, and with Dustin and with Cody, and it was really cool to just kind of plant the seeds more for a Cody heel turn, even more, I thought, because there were a couple of quick glimpses where Cody looked at Sting like as if he was, just passing him by, and you could see almost a slight hint of resentment on Cody's face. So I think that was a really good sell for Cody and during that promo. Obviously, as a lot of people had figured, Sting mentioned that he was here for Darby Allin. So we can only imagine what's going to happen with that. So good promo. I mean, we'll see.
Here's what I see as a problem. Number one, we know Sting had a very serious neck injury.
Yep.
And we know that he is, going to be coming up on that 60 train.
61.
Yeah. So
he is 61 years old.
The numbers are going to keep rising, right?
Right in the hardcore demographic for NXT.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
50 plus.
Exactly. So you're going to build that audience.
Of course. They only lost by 0.06 this week in the 50 plus demo.
Yeah, there you go. But the question becomes this, which to me is pretty simple. If you look at how the WWE gets totally crapped on for having guys like Goldberg come out, this essentially is the same thing. And again, you're seeing a lot of the copying. My bigger problem is the fact that when he came in to do this, outside of that, saying that they've been looking forward to sharing a ring, right? The hugging of Shivani, it was very, I was not excited by Sting.
You weren't turned on? You weren't turned on when he had that bat?
So here's the thing. I do just have to comment on something that you said, Michaels. And I don't liken this to when WWE brings back Goldberg, for instance, because WWE pushed Goldberg to their fucking marquee championship. And that is not what AEW is going to do with Sting. They've made that known. I'm just saying, like, that the plans are, as of right now, that he is here to help the younger talent, which is something that he mentioned that he wanted to do
said that
in
last
TNA.
Week? Who said that last week?
Exactly.
And got butchered.
but sorry, I wasn't here to defend you, man. But no, the bottom line is this: when you go into this with one set of ideals, and it's been documented that Sting wanted to help bring along the younger generation of talent in TNA. They did not want to use him necessarily to do that. So that's why he retired. That is something that has been documented. So now he has that opportunity. I legitimately don't see Sting wrestling a match. I legitimately think that he is going to serve as a mentor to Darby Allin. If he wrestles one match, it'll probably be a tag match where he gets tagged in, hits a scorpion death drop on somebody, and tags Darby back in, and they get the win. That's what I would see happening.
Do you not feel that whole interaction was a setup for those two wrestling?
I honestly, I thought that it made more of a it planted the seeds more so for a Cody Rhodes Darby Allin match.
Really? I didn't read that at all. Simon, what was your take on seeing that, the call out?
You talking about from last week's AEW, whenever Sting came out, or what?
So Sting's in the ring with Cody, and he says, "I'm not here for you. I'm here for him," basically.
I took it more as a mentorship, but again, that's because I want that. So my perspective could always possibly lean towards that versus the possibility of a possible match. So I understand perspectives do play a big part in what we see sometimes.
I think that one of the things that is really hard is that you see Sting in his character. He's got his paint on, he's got his jacket on, he's got his baseball bat. If you compare him as a mentor to, say, Arn Anderson or Tully Blanchard, those guys look like mentors, right? They're coming out, they're themselves. It makes sense. Sting coming out as the character, to me, shows he's going to be in the ring wrestling. That's what I'm afraid of.
Well, let me ask you this question too, because you do make an interesting point. Because now that, as you're saying, I think it is too. Him coming out with the face paint and the bat and everything could also clearly shows the division of, Arn Anderson, Tony Blanchard, nothing to take away from them, Jake the Snake Roberts, and then you have Sting up here as, still maintaining the icon, still maintaining the persona. Because let's be honest, you see that as Sting being ready, but a lot of people sometimes need that. I call it picture books. Wow, Sting, face paint. Yes. If he came out without the face paint, I think that it wouldn't have been as obvious enough to draw eyes.
I agree.
For people outside of that.
So
I agree.
So
100%.
then here, so here then is my final thought on it. What happens when those who watched it and saw Sting and got excited and think they are going to see Sting wrestling again, do not get him wrestling?
Well, a lot of that is contingent on how well AEW starts elevating a lot of their talent, and if they're a person that regularly watches AEW. Because if you're someone that doesn't regularly watch AEW, you'll probably be pissed off and be like, fuck this shit. But if you're someone that watches AEW and really has high hopes for him, okay, we didn't get what we wanted with Sting, but at least we still get to see him on TV, which is nice for nostalgia reasons. I don't have to necessarily see him in the ring. And we know backstage, possibly he's helping with the younger talent. And we hope it's Darby Allin.
Yeah. Like I said, I think that you could actually, have there be some sort of a tag match where it is advertised that Sting is going to wrestle a match. And it comes down to Darby Allin doing almost all of the work in the match, except maybe he's in peril. He makes a hot tag to Sting, and Sting runs the ropes and hits a couple of clotheslines, hits somebody
flashes
with a scorpion death drop, and that's it.
Yeah.
Like you can't tell me that he doesn't have like one series left, like one 1 minute comeback spot in him. I know that he can't do a whole lot, but that's where these guys can actually step up and make it seem believable. And that's when you have that willing suspension of disbelief.
You know what I also think about too, Sin City, is remember back in WWE where they had commissioners and they had Sergeant Slaughter. Particularly Sergeant Slaughter, I say this because he really didn't get involved in too many matches. I think for a while they had him do it toward the end, but he would just come in and, he would kind of dictate the law. I'm hoping to see Sting in some sort of a capacity to that degree. It may involve some physicality on his end of probably coming in with the bat, or the lights turn off, comes in with the bat. You know how he does it. Hits people with the bat and then vanishes. Or it could just be, like you said, a match to where somebody else, younger talent's doing most of the work. I would like to see him in that capacity because I agree with you, Michaels. I don't want to see a lot of the older wrestlers getting to the regulatory matches. Like it's to the point even when WWE does it, I'm just like, I'm not feeling it. I'm just not. I want to see younger talent. I want to see other people get shine and rubs.
I'm gonna let Michaels get the last say on this, and then Sin City, let's go to the next part of AEW because will be here all day. We got a lot to say. Go ahead, Michaels. What you want to add to it?
No, just very simple. It's this: if basically, if you're trying to get eyes on the product, you get the eyes on the product, and you think that you're going to be seeing this guy wrestle. You have a bad. You're going to have people who thought he was going to wrestle, and then people who thought he shouldn't be wrestling. So one half of your audience is not going to be happy. And that's potentially a problem. And again, the thing is, it's great if you got eyes. How do you retain those eyes? So there's a lot of questions. Obviously, we can't, we don't know.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. So elsewhere on the show, you had FTR and the Varsity Blondes. Pretty much a glorified showcase match for FTR. It was nice to see Brian Pillman Jr. on AEW TV on their main product. So that was awesome. You had Dustin Rhodes versus 10 from the Dark Order. The main reason why I'm bringing this up is not so much for the match itself, but what happened after the match, where you had the Dark Order attempting to recruit Dustin Rhodes, even going as far as to name drop 7 which I thought was amazing, referencing his failed WCW gimmick during the Russo era. And, you know, some nice double entendre there. Also, you know, you had Abaddon versus Tesha Price. Abaddon, you know, she did her thing, man. She definitely is getting better in the ring, but it just does go to show you that AEW's women's division is still lacking. They're making moves however they may, whether it's, you know, going to you know, outside companies as they've done in the past. They're doing everything that they can to try to, you know, turn the tides and to right the ship. But it's definitely going to take a lot more. You also had the Inner Circle Ultimatum, which, you know, basically really didn't accomplish a whole hell of a lot.
Right.
No one thought that they were going to be breaking up. No, that wasn't even in the cards. It did further the divide between Sammy Guevara and MJF. So that was definitely some good storytelling there. We had the Kenny Omega promo on Dynamite, which, I'll be real, was a kind of a watered down diet wish version of his promo that he cut on Impact and that Don Callis cut on Impact.
Right.
Realistically, I the only kind of thing that I could say with this is that, you know, they maybe explained everything to people exactly like they did in Impact on AEW, just factoring in not many people are watching Dynamite, or not many people have the capability or the access to watch Impact. And
Yeah.
there you go. And now the thing that more than anything that I took from this promo was Omega came off looking like as if he was talking shit about Tony Khan and saying that nepotism was what enabled him to be where he is now and to be the AEW champion, because they used that nepotism card better than anybody else in the company. So I thought that was pretty funny, essentially equating Tony Khan to being a money mark. And that was, you know, I think that they could have done a little bit better than what they did in that promo. But that's just me. Maybe I was reading too much into it. And last, but certainly not least, you had MJF versus Orange Cassidy for the Dynamite Diamond Ring. You had MJF retain the Dynamite Diamond Ring. There were so many moving parts. I mean, you had the Inner Circle doing a run-in, Best Friends doing their thing, Miro, Kip Sabian, a Partridge, a Pear Tree, the whole fucking deal. Just bring out the whole goddamn roster and treat it like a Royal Rumble pay-per-view build. I mean, dear God, it was overbooked. It was a good match to end the show with, but it was overbooked to hell.
Yeah.
And I think, unfortunately, it left the viewer of AEW kind of, you know, wondering what was going to happen next. But at the same time, like, holy shit, I got serious 2001 Nitro vibes from this match. That is not what you should be leaving your viewers with.
Right.
I do have to point out that AEW was actually, as far as ratings go, we talked about ratings earlier. The 18 to 49 rating was up 7.1% from last week and was the highest since October 9th, 2019, opposed or unopposed, which was the second ever episode of Dynamite. So whether it was, you know, the promo that we didn't even talk about with Brandy Rhodes and Shaq, you know, which, you know, it is what it is. The fallout from Kenny Omega's win, they buried NXT. The overall number, 995,000 to 659,000.
Well, you know, do it, but they still couldn't do it.
Oh, give me a fucking break. So your linchpin with this is that they were 5,000 viewers away from 1 million viewers.
If they executed what they should have with last week's pay-per-view quality show, they should have been easily over 1 million.
The thing that I'll mention to you is, as far as Wednesday night wrestling, and this will segue into NXT. NXT finished 37th on cable in the 18 to 49. AEW was number 1 with a bullet on all of cable TV. I know, but that's the money demo. That's what makes them the money with the advertisers. The thing that I wanted to draw attention to is this: the combined audience on Wednesday of 1.654 million viewers on Wednesday night was up 5.3% from last week and was the highest since February 19th. The combined 0.62 rating in 18 to 49 was the highest in all of 2020. And that's combined for NXT and AEW. So you've got more young people watching the Wednesday night product, which is an amazing thing. Now, the thing is, it was actually well above the 0.53 18 to 49 rating that Raw did on Monday night. So call it what you will, there are more younger people watching AEW/NXT than what watched Monday Night Raw. And it was virtually the same number as what went down on Fox, on broadcast Fox. It's huge. So Wednesday is becoming a wrestling night. The number is starting to go up.
I think you guys probably will hit that $1 million mark. I'm not $1 million mark. Sorry, million people. When, and this is, and I think this is the case probably for most of the wrestling organizations. But I think once live events go back into play, which still might not be to a year out, but whenever that happens, I think that's when you will start to see, you know, like I said, you'll hit that million people, and we'll see even the Raw and SmackDown numbers, because I think generally people, what makes wrestling exciting is the idea of not only watching it, but they're about to be in my town. And the excitement of that, I think, gets people to just want to continue to want to watch it. But knowing that it's just, you know, something they put on TV, I think some is just kind of dipped out. Hopefully we grab them back, but as of right now, you know, and I think that's kind of part of AEW's struggle as far in terms of that mark, but in terms of the numbers, you're still looking good. So I know that's what you're saying as well.
One of the big potential mishaps, though. So you look at the increase in numbers with Kenny Omega going and doing that Impact one-off as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
How many more viewers do you get if it was Moxley? Because I don't think it's the AEW champion. I think if you would have put Moxley on that show and he had the belt, all right, just happened to have the belt, you draw a higher number and you get more eyes and interest.
I would actually agree with you on that, Michaels. Logistically, I think that this was the best course of action for them, though. And here's why. And this is knowing other things. We know that Jon Moxley has to defend his IWGP US Championship at the Tokyo Dome January 4th. He has to go into quarantine for 14 days before he even jumps on a plane and goes over to Japan. So it's one of those things where he's going to have to do that, and he's going to have a quarantine period once he is in Japan before they will let him even compete. So it's one of those things where they pulled the trigger, probably the latest that they could possibly do it, so that they could make everything line up.
Yeah, it's just again, it's the thought though of if you use someone like him who has an established name, there's always that possibility of then drawing that bigger number. Obviously, you talk about logistics, it was done for that reason. But then again, you said a big word, and that was crash booking. In some sense, the whole past 2 weeks or so has felt like that. Just a lot of crash booking. So, again, it's not that the aspect of seeing them fail is something that's, I do not want to see them fail, but I want to see them hit that potential they should be hitting, and they have to maintain it. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Because you can have those numbers, that's great. But remember, as the contract starts getting close to running out, those younger viewers that you got, are they still watching 3 years from now? So it's interesting to say the least, man. We're in the one of the most interesting periods to see what's going on, and we'll see.
Let's jump over to NXT. Simon Street, how was it looking coming off of a big, crazy pay-per-view the week after that, man? How was it looking this week?
Well, if I had to name this week's NXT viewing, basically, I would have called it the aftermath of War Games, because even before we got right into the show, they basically showed a good, video package of the aftermath of War Games, and big, announcers were talking about people injured in War Games. So it was pretty much, which I thought was cool, because, the pay-per-view, as we talked about last week, was amazing. It was well done. It was greatly executed, and by far one of the better War Games that we've had thus far, just in my opinion and some other people's opinion. But getting right into the show, they did do a video package beforehand of Finn Balor talking about have fun with your War Games and whatnot. It's time to focus on the Prince. As such, Finn Balor comes out and basically begins to go on talking about, this is what's next for Finn Balor and the NXT Championship, when, of course, he is met by the Bruiserweight, Pete Dunne, who comes out to basically address him and says, we are pretty much a lot alike. You came overseas, I came overseas, made a name for ourselves. I think for most people watching at this point, we're getting excited because everybody would love to see, Pete Dunne and Finn Balor go one-on-one, when he is interrupted yet again by O'Reilly from Undisputed Era, who comes out. And as everybody remembers, O'Reilly in Finn Balor match was amazing. Really got a chance to showcase O'Reilly's talents outside of what he normally was in the Undisputed Era. But it was interesting enough because he came in and basically went right for, look, man, you were drinking through a straw because of a broken jaw. And so as they were about to go into it, yet again, another interruption. Again, you had Damian Priest, which was make for very interesting. He comes down and basically, as the three start to taunt each other, Damian Priest, Pete Dunne, and O'Reilly, some of the catchphrases, the reason I want to bring this up because I thought were pretty goddamn witty, but the best one was what Priest said. They talked to Priest basically said, I don't show up for 6 months out of the year, or I don't show up to only be here 6 months out of the year, which I thought was pretty amazing. But anyways, as all that bantering is going on and horrible impersonations like the biggest bad boys of podcasting, i.e. myself, Finn Balor walks off, and then Priest then begins to want to go ahead and question Priest, when all of a sudden music hits, Scarlett comes out, and of course we already know what's about to happen. That means Karrion Kross. We were waiting for Karrion Kross to come out, but we knew that Scarlett was out, and man, was she looking good. I don't know what the outfit was, but her and all her awe gave that look. And, pretty much, Finn Balor says, hey, you tell him whenever he's ready, the Prince is ready. So you think that's it? That already is exciting. Damian Priest begins to sit there and say, hey, Scarlett, does your man normally wait in the car and have you work his business? I'm paraphrasing. I probably didn't do it as well as he did. And so she just gives him this look. A reason why I want to bring that up, because later on when I talk about towards the end of the show, why that played a pivotal role, why I thought that was.
Why are we recapping everything on his show still?
I'm not recapping everything on the damn show. I only talked about the first introduction. I think I have the right to do so, Michaels. We go through this every goddamn week. I'm just saying. let me talk about my own goddamn part.
It's as if the people did not watch the show.
I don't give a shit if they watched it or not. I wanted to talk about it because I thought it was great. Thought it was a great part of the show. Okay, so as I'm moving on, is it okay, Michaels? Can I move on? Thank you.
Good God, please.
So, anyways, they had a couple of matches that were okay. You know, I had Isaiah Swerve Scott versus Jake Atlas. That was a good match. You know, you had the grizzled young veterans and versus Imperial versus Ever Rise, aka Ever Losing, jobbing out. That had a match which was pretty interesting. Wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. But the other thing that I wanted to quickly talk on is Tommaso Ciampa versus Cameron Grimes. I like what they're doing with Tommaso Ciampa. I'm not going to talk about the match because that y'all can watch, because assuming you watch the match, Michaels. I thought it was cool what they're doing with Tommaso Ciampa, because I wondered after him and Thatcher had a hell of a fucking match. And when Ciampa came back talking about the state of NXT is pretty much just self-delusioned and self-loathing. I want to know, what are you going to do after that great match? What's your direction? And it looks like he's going to be probably calling out NXT talent one by one doing a match. Now, whether they decide to do a storyline with him or something, I thought that was pretty freaking cool, because it's something that I thought about with another person in mind that they didn't do it in the past. But they're doing it with Tommaso Ciampa. I hope it continues. It looks like we're going to get some more of Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa. And when they looked at Thatcher's ear, I think it was his left ear, that looked fucking brutal. It looked like they stitched his earlobe back to his ear. It looked pretty nasty. But you know, and then you had other things, Johnny Gargano, Candice LeRae, the celebration. That was okay. It sucks that they're making your boy, what is his name? I call him Dumb Boy now, but I don't like
Austin Theory.
Yeah, I don't like how they're making Austin Theory look like he's just stupid as shit. like that's not going to do it for me, but we can talk about that another time, see what y'all guys think. And then you had Pete Dunne, Killian Dane. That match was very interesting, but what I want to give props to Pete Dunne, because I've never seen him pull off this move with such a big dude like Dane. That was amazing. Steve, do you see the same thing? Like when he freaking put him in his finishing move, the bitter end, it looked as almost like Dunn landed on top of him. He pulled off the move, but I was like, my gosh, like that's pretty amazing. I've never seen him do it on a bigger dude.
Yeah.
So anyways,
I think that was the biggest guy that he's ever done that move to.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I couldn't remember in recent history. I was like, man, that is crazy. Like, but you know, he pulls off the win. The thing I will tell you again, the reason why I'm recapping, and the reason why I think AEW, as Sin City Steve said earlier, was a lot better than NXT's, because NXT really was just doing a recap of the aftermath of War Games, and I feel like it didn't really do too much to push, except for one match that I saw, and that is Raquel Gonzalez versus Ember Moon. They talked about it in the video package, pretty much about, you know, Dakota Kai getting injured because of the eclipse that Ember Moon performed her on the chair. And so, you know, Raquel Gonzalez, being teamed with her, decided, you know what, let me get some retribution for her, for my friend. And, you know, pretty much, again, showcasing that Raquel Gonzalez, I believe, is ready for the next step. I think that she's decent enough with her promos. She hasn't had a lot of them lately, but they've been decent when she did an interview in the back. But in the ring, I think that she's amazing to watch. I enjoy watching her. And she basically just tossed Ember Moon all around the ring like a damn rag doll. I mean, Ember Moon just couldn't have stood a chance. And the interesting thing is what happened after the match. Basically, you know, after she was tossing her around, you had Toni Storm come out and was looking to attack Moon as well. And then you had Rhea Ripley come out. And again, we're seeing foreshadowing. They're really building up this match for whatever the next big takeover is going to be, Gonzalez versus Ripley. I think that's going to be amazing. I hope they put a lot of good stock into boosting up that match. And as far as for Toni Storm, I think they're just going to push her towards Io Shirai at some point. then, toward the very, very end of the NXT, I will agree, Sin City Steve, that I thought that although it was a good NXT, it wasn't great. And I'm being honest. And that doesn't mean that it's me just being mean. I just felt like it was lacking something. And I thought that they, after a pay-per-view, should have had way better continuity than what they normally have when it wasn't a pay-per-view afterwards. And so that's why I think also contributed to AEW. Just like you said, the way that the show was portrayed was just boom, 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 boom. That worked well for them. But I think also because NXT was not a snooze alert, but it was just even kill. So that was pretty much NXT. I hope that Matt Michaels, on a scale to 1 to 10 of annoyance, was at an 11, because that's what I shoot for every freaking Sunday, is to find different ways to annoy you. One of these days, I'm going to duct tape your ass and I'm going to read you Lord of the Rings.
Oh boy.
Just to freaking annoy you.
So to show you that I got to you, you didn't even fucking mention that Cross actually came out then.
And I did not do that purposely so you could talk about that. And Matt Michaels, there you go. Talk about it.
There's really not much to talk about. Let's face it. I mean, it's a good setup.
But why was it a good setup? You tell me why. Something I said earlier. I want to hear you say it.
I don't know what.
Because you didn't pay attention. If you had been paying attention, it's interesting because Damian Priest said, "Do you always have your man wait in the car and handle his business?" After he got his ass dumped around by Karrion Kross went back to the car and Scarlett was waiting in the car, and Karrion Kross just gave that good. That was some good continuity. This is the shit that I thought was good. But I want to see if you paid attention to that, because that was your opportunity to say Rome. Screw you.
I don't know who this Rome is that I'm screwing.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh, that's
Boa and Xia Li vignette. That was it. That was badass.
That was weird.
I'm just gonna say that was badass. So
that's borderline torture. Do you think next week they're gonna waterboard or do like bamboo shoots under the thumbnails?
Yes.
Under the nails?
Yes. It wouldn't surprise me.
all of this eventually to just have them come back and just
lose
to job out to everyone.
Right.
Is Shang
They'll have
Tsung
Xia Li come back just to job to Ember Moon.
So when is Shang Tsung are gonna come out and actually run a promo and talk, or is he just gonna beat them with kendo sticks in the middle of the ring or some shit?
I hope he doesn't cut a promo.
I hope he doesn't, unless he says.
I hope he just stays silent. But I'm interested to see what they do with those two characters.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump quickly into ROH. There was 2 matches, as always. ROH is great programming. I'm telling you, if you can find a way to watch it, please watch it. It's really great wrestling TV. 2 good matches this past week. Flip Gordon versus Josh Woods in a pure rules match. And Flip Gordon won the match. I didn't think he was going to win it. I mean, Josh is a beast, especially when it comes to him winning under pure rules. He even had Flip Gordon use 2 of his rope breaks, and so I was like, it's about to be a wrap. But Flip got maintained and won that, so that was really good. Then there was a tag team, the Bouncers, against Mark Briscoe and PCO. Now we always know the Briscoes are always there together, so why is it Mark with his brother Jay? Well, Jay is too busy getting caught up in EC3 to the point where Mark can't even talk any sense to Jay. So Mark, I gotta go about my business, find somebody else who I can go and get this this possible tag team championship. That if I can find someone and we can beat the Bouncers, we can get to that level. So he found PCO. They had a great match. PCO just still amazed me every time he does any of those. He did one spot off the ring. I said, "Oh my God, are you okay, man?" He totally missed him, which was purposely, and off into the ring. And I just go, "How old is?" I don't know. It's just great to watch him work. I love PCO. You know, just shows you, man, the body can, you know, if you treat it right, man, it'll take care of you, even as you age and everything. So bottom line, that everything is leading up to their big pay-per-view this weekend. If you got access to it, check it out. It's called The Final Battle. I'll just give you a couple of matches to look forward to. There is the ROH World Championship, Rush versus Brody King. You know, that's going to be really good. There is the winner receives a TV title shot. That's Tony Deppen, Dak Draper, LSG, and Josh Wood. So between one of those four, they would get that. Now is the ROH World Tag Team Championship. Lethal, Jay Lethal, and Jonathan Gresham versus PCO and Mark Briscoe. So another good match right there. The ROH Pure Championship match. Jonathan Gresham again versus Flip Gordon. Another good match. I'm gonna have to find a way to really watch this pay-per-view this weekend. So a few other matches in there, and of course, I guess that'll be a good one. Vincent and Bateman versus Matt Taven and Mike Bennett. So I guess you got the Kingdom versus, what do they call themselves? I always forget the other guys' names. Man, what's
Villain
their
Inc.
name? Say it again.
Villain Inc.
No, that's not. No, they don't go by that.
This is the implosion of the kingdom.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's basically you take the kingdom, you cut them into halves, and
Yeah. But anyway, it's going to be a good match between that. It's pretty much in the feud. It's like a grudge match. So if you get the opportunity to watch that this weekend, check it out. ROH. It is the final battle to end their pay-per-view of the year. All right. We'll move right over into WWE Raw.
Next.
Yeah.
pretty much.
I mean, there's no lie there.
Yeah, I which is crazy, right? Leading because they have a pay-per-view coming up also. We got TLC. So your show leading up to that should be hard hitting. What's going on? You know, I feel sometimes, and maybe just me, seems like sometimes Raw is just kind of giving up. I don't know. I mean, sometimes it appears that way. That they're not putting as much stock in it as they
have too much time on their hands. That's the problem.
Well, and you got to remember one thing, and that is a simple fact. They've put their focus from Raw being their main show to SmackDown being the main show.
Right, yeah.
People are just not used to that. That's what it comes down to. People expect Raw to be the main show. It's not.
Yeah.
As simple as that. I mean, okay, listen, The Fiend is like saving the show.
Yes.
If they didn't bring him over, they would be doing less than what AEW is drawing and NXT is drawing combined. So
yeah.
You know what else I also find a problem with Raw is, and it sounds nitpicky, but wasted time with Retribution. Why are we still continuing to have them? What is so wrong with having them vanish for a month? If you're dead set on having to utilize that, and that's what your laurels are on, okay? That, you know, have them vanish for a month, retool, figure some shit out, since you're not obviously listening to reason of taking the fucking masks off to start with. Having them go off and then putting them back on. I don't understand. It's really hard to watch now.
I think
it was a repeat of last Monday.
Yeah, and I think that when we talk, you know, if you're listening to this on the podcast, tune into 3 Count tomorrow. But we'll kind of get into what is almost foreshadowing the fact that Retribution won't be around much longer. And I think you're right. It's getting very repetitive. So it's showing signs that the implosion is about to happen.
Yeah.
Well, not even just that too, because you look at other factions such as the Hurt Business. Okay, so with the Hurt Business, with this last one, you see a possible story beat that may lead up to, okay, Cedric Alexander is really on a tear, doing good consistently. Okay, Shelton Benjamin lost. Cedric said, "Oh, we're not gonna do this." He kind of stepped up and said, oversaid something when usually MVP's part does that. Didn't do that. And so I'm wondering that, again, that's something that leads you to believe something new is coming with that faction, whether it's a breakup, some problem, whatever the case may be. Retribution, it's just rinse and repeat. Instead of shampoo, it's dirt.
But again, you got to also remember too that is that whole idea that again their job right now is to literally lose matches to the other talent.
Mm-hmm.
So they are doing that.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, when you lose to Dana Brooke and Ricochet, I mean,
Ricochet's like,
no
Ricochet's
offense,
like, hey,
no
wait a
offense
minute.
to anyone involved with that, but
Yeah.
I mean, the standing that Dana Brooke has and that Ricochet has on the show,
Right.
and then you have this group go out and lose to them. Not going to be around too much longer.
So let me ask you a question. You know what they need to do? They need to send all of Retribution, particularly what's Medium's character's name? Reckoning. Send her over to Shang Tsung in the torture pit on NXT.
No, what they need to do, what they need to do is they need to have Keith Lee go in and wreck shop and actually destroy Retribution. And rip off his wife's mask, and rip off his former best friend's mask, and then go back and just beat the shit out of Dijak, beat the shit out of Ali, and have him wreck that whole fucking stable.
Hey, that would make sense, but he may need to have more training to do that.
That's another story for another day. Tune in to 3 Count.
Well, let's jump over then to SmackDown. Then Matt Michaels, what did WWE do over there leading up to their big pay-per-view?
Well, don't forget, it's not leading up to their big pay-per-view. That's this week.
Yes, that's correct. That is right. I'm sorry.
Sunday. So
that's right. Yes,
so,
I'm tripping. Yes.
So maybe there'll be some kind of a little setup.
Yeah. So Monday Night Raw actually might be really
possibly possibly 1 or 2 things that will stand out. But really, okay. Here's the thing. Sasha, we all agree. Sasha is a great worker, and let's just put Sasha here, right? She's great.
Mm-hmm.
Carmella, man, I just
hey, easy now. Corey's listening. Go ahead.
Corey probably already know. He probably already know. He said, "Why didn't you stay home? Why didn't you stay home?"
They're so you had the first part of the night is the buildup, right?
Yep.
And then your deliverance is the match. Sasha made the match. Let's face it. And unfortunately, I was more excited and interested in just the exchange between Belair and Bailey than that whole fucking thing with your women's champion on your show.
Right.
And this person that you're trying to do something with that she doesn't have the full ring skill. She's never has. When she was champ before, what did they do? They relied on James Ellsworth to get her over.
Yep.
James fucking Ellsworth is the one who got her over.
Right.
I get it. She's a gorgeous woman, but man, there's just, and then having someone, come out and being her lackey. I would have rather seen someone like James Ellsworth. Now you've got her like Virgil, essentially, where it's just like,
he was getting his ass tossed around like Virgil was,
right? Oh, it's just like, oh man. So let's get to the pay-per-view. Let's get it over with. Let's. I don't know.
What's interesting, Michaels. I'm glad you brought that up. I appreciate that. It's almost as if it'd be great if back in the day when she first came on the scene, WWE saw that she lacked some ring training and sent her back to NXT for more training, which probably could have done well because her promos are decent. She's entertaining to watch and look at. But in ring, even when she had the championship, I was like, you got to stick a gimmick on her just to sell it.
You just hit a very good chord, and that is they tried when they brought Cass and Enzo up, they left her down there. And that should have been that proving ground. And they saw enough in her to bring her up on her own. And then they saw the potential of having her as a chicken shit heel, which was a perfect thing. But right now, let's face it, the reason I was excited between Belair and Bayley is because Bayley is a great chicken shit heel and Belair is a strong fucking woman. Sasha is a strong fucking woman, but Carmella is not right now a chicken shit heel that has any bearing. They're trying to make her look strong and you know, the fancy, you know, the champagne and blah, fucking blah. At this point, dye her hair red and call her Eva Marie.
Coming soon to Raw.
Yeah, I was just gonna say coming soon to Raw because I've heard stories of what's the dude?
Angel Garza.
Angel Garza doing shit backstage with her.
Yeah.
Work related, of course.
Yeah. So basically, we're gonna have two of the same character, one on each show.
Of course.
You know, again, we can't say enough about Roman Reigns and Jay and Kevin Owens. Maybe one of the best things going on in wrestling right now.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
What fucking entertainment. And boy, you talk about what's interesting is for as much as they are still a fairly family branded product, those guys were beating the fuck out of each other.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Jesus, man.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's wonderful. I think that potential match on the pay-per-view is just gonna I just knock on wood that one of them doesn't get hurt.
Right.
Because they are gonna go balls to the wall on this fucking thing. And then speaking of Kevin Owens, I think about his boy Sami Zayn.
Yep.
Jesus, once again.
Sammy's on fire, man.
Oh my
I just he can't do no wrong, man.
you know you've done something right when you're watching the product and you're going, yeah, it's a shitty white shirt with fucking marker drawn, but I would buy that Sami.
Right. I said that. I said it.
Right?
I said they need to release that, you know. Yeah, seriously.
So seriously. I mean, it's just wonders what they're doing with him. And you know, just overall, they're doing the right things that had made Raw such a staple. And they're just doing it on SmackDown now. It's
right, yeah.
As simple as that. And there was, you know, before the back and forth of, you know, this writing crew or that writing crew and stuff. But when you just basically had Raw and SmackDown somewhere in the mid 2000s, really SmackDown was always looked on as a show that was okay. But when they had the brand splits, it was usually second banana. And now it's just getting used to the fact that, you know, as they build this, what will end up happening is getting that. They don't have to worry about getting that contract with USA again. They'll get it. But Fox, they need to fucking make a statement. So
you're right. Hey, I didn't know if you were going to mention it or not, but in the show after SmackDown, they have their it's called Smack Talk, I think it is. Talking Smack. Yeah. Something that was really, really good. And I think that they are pushing. It was an exchange of conversation between Big E and Paul Heyman. And Paul Heyman said some Paul Heyman, I'm not even going to give him kudos no more. I'm just going to do this. because the man is a fucking genius. He's the reason why if ever my life gets uncomplicated, I would love to get in this business as a manager to aspire to be him. Just being honest, because he is the pinnacle and the standard of what a manager should be because of opportunities like this, to where he did two things that I saw. Number one, he talked to Big E very sincerely, his mannerisms, and basically told him a focused Big E is a Big E that will look at the accomplishments, and in no disrespect, and I'm paraphrasing, the New Day as a footnote to what Big E could become. And then as he's saying this, Big E's speechless, and we get it. But the one cool thing he did is he talked about when you see Roman Reigns and his accomplishments in the ring, when was the last time you heard people talk about his time with the Shield? And I was like, fire. Because you could take that, and that's utilizing small pockets. It didn't have to particularly be, even though it was on Fox still, not on your show. Take that, wrap that bad boy up, and whenever you choose to pull the trigger, you pull the trigger. Roman Reigns, Big E, that could be one area, or it could be a seat at the table. It doesn't have to just be family. Do you see what I'm saying? So
I think what you'll see Big E take the IC title from Sami Zayn.
I mean, that could be. And even with that would be great too. And again, it just shows you Paul Heyman, to me, when I see him, that's why I want more managers in wrestling in general, and really good. I'm honestly interested in knowing what our school's doing with regards to when you look in managers, because, even here, here in Vegas, there's some managers that I see that I'm waiting to see them on TV because I think that they have the makings to be amazing. And so I wonder, is that the next step? And I mentioned it on the podcast, I think 2 years ago or a year ago when we first started. And I wondered, man, we really need more managers, like really good managers. And I don't think it went any further than just a conversation, but we really need more managers because they fill in the gaps, I believe, in two areas where you have someone that's great in the ring, but not great in promos, or someone that's great in promos that so someone that's great in the ring, but not good at promos, but someone that maybe could use some work in some promos and needs that extra person to talk for them. And I say that because Brock Lesnar can do a promo. It's not horrible, but having Paul Heyman there as his advocate made Brock Lesnar that much more badass in addition to what he can fucking do in the ring. Same thing for Roman Reigns. Even though Roman Reigns is now capable of handling himself on the mic, having Paul Heyman there, I mean, I want to see that be duplicated before, Paul Heyman moves on to other things. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm sorry. Thank you for letting me take time to really say that, because it really hit me.
Yeah, no doubt. Anything else was there on SmackDown? That's it, Matt.
Oh, we're good.
All right, good. New Japan Pro Wrestling, Sin City. I will say this, that the Super J Cup winner for the second year in a row was El Phantasmo, and he defeated ACH. Apparently, though, El Phantasmo calls out Hiromu Takahashi.
Yeah.
Okay, for their match at Wrestle Kingdom 15. I know,
Hey, before you continue, one of these days we're gonna take every one of these names you've messed up and we're gonna put together a video package.
Well, I'll tell you this, it doesn't help that I actually write out a lot of my notes, and if you see how I write, and then I have to try to pronounce so the combination of that is just crazy.
Talk about lost in translation.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. But yes, he did call out Takahashi for their match at Wrestle Kingdom 15, man. What's your take on this year's Super J Cup and what we can expect this January?
Well, so shout outs to Vegas's own Chris Bay.
Yeah, Chris
who
Bay.
pulled a Rick Rude. He was on Impact for the Final Destination pay-per-view, Final Resolution, whatever the fuck it was. And also he competed in the Super J Cup tournament. He defeated Clark Connors in the first round, losing to ACH in the semis. Made a great showing for himself. So, special shout out to our boy Chris Bay.
Yes.
Also, ACH defeated TJP in the first round.
Yeah.
So someone else that is very familiar with the Vegas wrestling scene.
Right.
El Phantasmo won the Super J Cup for the second year in a row. So that's no small feat, to say the least.
Yeah.
So I think that, as we get closer to Wrestle Kingdom, this is a really fun time to follow New Japan. Even if you don't know your ass from your elbow when it comes to the New Japan roster, then just dive in head first and just enjoy what's going on. Because as we get closer to Wrestle Kingdom, it is like WrestleMania for them. And it's a 2-night event. And one thing's for sure, you're going to get solid matches from top to bottom. And it just building that storyline and, building all of the nice little twists and turns as we get closer to January 4th.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else good to look forward to kick off the new year. New Japan Wrestle Kingdom 15. Definitely look to, if you don't have one of those subscriptions to the, I'm actually was thinking about it. I think they have one that's for $9.99 as well, isn't it?
New Japan World.
Yeah, so
totally worth it.
Right.
Totally worth it.
Yeah.
That's where you can see all of the NJPW Strong shows. I mean, friends of the show, such as, Danny Limelight and, a lot of guys that are, mainstays in the Vegas, Southern California wrestling scene. They're appearing on a regular basis on NJPW Strong. And, if nothing else, if you want to see those guys, check out NJPW, check out New Japan World. It's seriously, it's $10 and it's amazing quality stuff.
Absolutely.
You know what, Sin City Steve, it's interesting that you said that, because I actually am looking to actually get that. And to be honest with you, before I never thought about it. I was like, do I want to spend the $10 for it? But with a lot of stuff that's been going on, and I used to watch New Japan a long time ago, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it.
They have an app for the Fire Stick. So if you have a Fire Stick, they have an app that's native to that device, and you can just download the app right to the Fire Stick and watch it just like what you would a regular show.
I think it's on Apple Store too. If I'm not mistaken.
Is Benoit still?
Wow.
Go sit in the corner, man.
Oh, Michaels.
We almost had him when we was going to make it to the whole show, and now I got to put him over in the corner.
I know, right?
Oh, man.
Just to give you a heads up, New Japan World is on Apple Store.
Nice.
So cool. You can get on your Apple device. I'm sure it's probably on Google Play as well. So
yep.
All right.
Definitely.
Well, a little bit of sad news happened this past week in the acting and in the wrestling world. We lost Tommy Tiny Lister Jr. Now, most in the movie world knows him as Debo. If you watch any of the Friday movies, which was very, very exciting to see him. When you saw him riding down the street in that bike, you know that there was about to be a problem if he caught.
Better hide your chain. Hide your chain. That's his chain.
Yeah, absolutely.
And his bike.
And his bike. Yep. Absolutely. So, but in the wrestling world, man, I got to tell you, as a person who was watching Hulk in back in the 80s, I remember the movie that he was in. I think it was actually, I want to say it was No Holds Barred. Could be wrong, but I believe that was it.
No, it was No Holds Barred.
Okay, and he was he was portraying Zeus. And in the movie, of course, the way it was planned out was Hogan beat Zeus. But then I guess when Zeus came over into WWF at the time, he was like, I'm going to show you that this is not the movie business. I'm going to actually take on Hulk, in this actual wrestling. So he wrestled a bit. And he used to have you would never thought that one move he had where he put his hands and he just comes down on your shoulders was enough to just take you out.
Or the neck twist.
Oh, right. Yeah. But Zeus was and listen, let's be real, okay? Because how was I? Oh my God. What, 7 or 8? when you saw Zeus, I'm like,
17,
he's
18.
scary. Like, what, an age?
Yeah.
Let's get out of here, Cincy.
Damn.
I am not that old, man.
He
Damn.
cut deep. He cut deep on that shit.
You go sit in the corner too, right next to Matt Michaels.
No, in fact, go sit on his lap.
but watching him, it was like, wow, he really is scary. And I was like, man, as a Hulkamaniac, because who wasn't, I'm like, man, Hulk's really gonna get beat down. But he didn't. Tommy wasn't in there for a long time. He wrestled, I think, it was less than a year, I want to say, in WWF at that time. But he was he played a pivotal role at that time. And I'm surprised he never I don't know if there's rules to how you make the Hall of Fame, but I'm assuming he's not in it. He could be, but I don't ever remember there ever being.
He's not in it.
Okay, I didn't think so. So I'm pretty shocked that he isn't in there, but because he definitely played.
Celebrity wing. I mean, they always
they look for the celebrity ones.
Yeah, they're always looking for somebody.
Yeah.
I would prefer to only see him in the celebrity ring. No offense to any accomplishments he's had outside of the ring.
Right, but only for celebrity, yes, not for the actual wrestling. Nevertheless, that was just a little memory of him. He definitely will be missed. The news came this past week. Even an update said it appears it could have been COVID-19. This pandemic is really just doing a work on so many. We're losing a lot of great people all over the world, but we'll always remember Tommy Tiny Lister Jr., Debo, Zeus, whatever you want to remember him as. Go ahead, Matt.
Let's remember him though as Tiny Lister, because you've been saying Tommy.
That may be a nickname, because I've heard other people refer to it.
Yeah, and that's what I put out.
I've actually heard,
but okay, that's fine. Yeah,
I thought his
but it is in the movies. It's Tony. They do in the movies. They do list him as Tony.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, cool. Outside of that, though, that is our wrestling talk, and we thank everybody for hanging out with us. And we will do this all over again next week. We have 2 pay-per-views, again, ROH and then TLC. So we will recap those. And with that, let's just stay safe out there, guys. I know it's holiday time, and everybody's out in these streets like there's nothing happening, but we're still in the pandemic. So just be careful. All right. So with that, we're out. Don't forget tomorrow's 3 count. Download it. Listen. Peace.